Okay, it looks like we're going to get started here. Thank you so much for joining us for another WOW webinar. My name is Nora Luongo, and I am on the internal marketing team here at WearAware. Today's topic is a 30-minute webinar on winning on Amazon. As always, we are recording this. We will send the recording, the slides, and we have a checklist that goes over everything and then some that we go over today in the webinar. That we'll send out either later today or tomorrow morning in an email, so take a look, keep a lookout for that. If you're on Twitter, feel free to tweet along with us using the hashtag WowWebinar that you see on the screen. And if you have any questions during the webinar, feel free to chat them to us, and we'll try to get to a couple at the end. Just be mindful of everyone's time because this is a 30-minute format. We won't get to everybody's questions. So if we don't get to it or if we don't answer it during the webinar, feel free to reach back out to us, and we'll be sure to connect you with somebody to get you those answers. And with that, I'm going to kick it over to my colleague Dan to take it away.
All right, thanks so much, Nora. So my name is Dan Caro. I'm the Senior Director of Product Management here at WearAware. And just to reiterate a couple of things that Nora said, so if you're going to tweet along with today's presentation, just make sure to tweet along with the hashtag WowWebinar. And then, like Nora said just a second ago, if you have any questions as we go through today's topics, just make sure to send them along through the chat so that Nora can compile them. And we'll try to leave time at the end to take care of any questions that you guys might have. And I'm going to try to keep today's format to under the 30 minutes so we have time for questions at the end. So just a little bit about WearAware before we get started. WearAware is a digital agency located in the Washington, D.C. metro area. The things that we specialize in are web design, marketing automation, SEO, and analytics. And we also recently released a suite of cloud-based sales tools called Pharaoh, so that's something new on the WearAware radar. And just a little bit about the companies that we work with. So we work with a large number of B2B and B2C consumer products companies and services companies based in North America. And before we get started, I also want to talk about a little bit of hands-on help that we can offer with Amazon. So we're offering a couple of different marketing services packages to get you started. And here are some ones that you can pick and choose from. So first off, we've got the Amazon Marketing Audit. So this is an audit where we review your current efforts and develop a personalized marketing plan, a personalized strategy plan. Second, we have the Product Data Optimization Audit, where we review and set up and do enhancements of your Amazon product data feed and improve your search ranking. Next, we do an audit on Amazon Ads. So we do the setup and ongoing optimization of any of your existing Amazon advertisements. And then finally, we can build a custom Amazon store page for you. So that's a branded Amazon landing page to further promote your products. So just to talk a little bit about today's agenda for the webinar. So it should be a quick webinar. Like I said before, it's going to be less than 30 minutes. We're going to do a little bit of Q&A at the end, so make sure to send your questions in. And the topics that we're going to be talking about, we're going to keep it pretty simple since it's a 30-minute webinar. We're going to be talking about enhancing your product titles, descriptions, and images. So those are the areas we're going to focus on for optimizing your Amazon product listings. Next, we're going to be talking about optimizing your back-end keywords. So just doing a little bit more with your back-end keywords to improve your search ranking. And then finally, we're going to close out with how you can boost your Amazon success, just a couple of ways for you to do that. And then I'm going to close out with the takeaways from today's presentation, and then we'll jump into questions. So let's jump into Amazon, and let's start talking about why Amazon is important. So a stat that we have from eMarketer survey from this year is that Amazon owns almost 50% of the US e-commerce market. So everybody knows that Amazon's big and that Amazon's a really big marketplace, but sometimes marketers forget how big Amazon really is. So if you're not selling on Amazon, you're missing out on 50% of the e-commerce market. So I talk to a lot of companies, and they're always telling me, like, I want to sell on Amazon or I want to sell more on Amazon. But if you're not investing time and money in Amazon right now, you're really missing out on a huge part of the e-commerce market that lives out there. Another stat that we have is, this is from a May 2018 Adept Mind survey. that 47% of US product searches start on Amazon, and that's compared with 35% that start on Google. So I always hear about how much market share Google has and how big Google is in terms of product searches, but if you're looking at the actual numbers, there are more product searches that start on Amazon than Google. So if you're spending a lot of time investing your money, time, and effort on Google, you might want to think about shifting some of that time to Amazon if you're selling consumer products, just because you have so much market share of product searches that are actually starting on Amazon rather than on Google. So now we're going to jump into the meat of today's presentation, which is Amazon optimization basics. So a couple of Amazon ranking factors that we want to talk about. So today's focus is going to be on text match relevancy. So that's titles, features, and product description to move you up on the search ranking. Then we're going to focus a little more on images, so just high quality imagery that you can use within your product listing. And then we're also going to talk a little bit about enhanced business content for third-party sellers and Amazon A+ content for first-party sellers. So there's a couple things here that directly affect your Amazon search ranking. So there's three things that directly affect the ranking. So first off, it's availability. It's whether you have product in stock now. Second, like I mentioned before, it's the text match relevancy. So that's making your product titles, your features that are associated with your product, and your product description relevant to searches that are occurring out there for products. And then the last direct factor is price, just making sure that you have a competitive price. And obviously a more competitive price is going to move you up the search ranking if you have a better price than a competitor. And then just things that indirectly affect your search ranking is your fulfillment method, your reviews, so the number of reviews that you have, and your review score. Like I mentioned before, it's your image, like having high quality image and multiple images for your product. And then if you're doing advertising as a first party or third party seller, it's having that enhanced business content or Amazon A+ content added onto your listing as well. And then finally, it's doing additional advertising and promotions for your Amazon products. So just to keep going, we're going to talk about the anatomy of your product listing. So there's four main things that your buyers see when they get to your Amazon listing. So first, it's your primary image. So what's displayed, so the consumer's eye is normally drawn to big, beautiful product imagery on the left side of the screen. And then after that, they see your title, they see your price, and they see your product features. That's generally where buyers' eyes are going to go when they first see your product listing. So you want to make sure that you're spending time enhancing these areas, that they're really good, and then just making the best use out of each one individually. So the first area that we're going to focus on is optimizing your product title. So in this case, we're looking at a product title here for a KitchenAid mixer. So there's just a couple things to keep in mind as you're putting together your Amazon title. So first off, you want to make sure that you're using concise, front-loaded, and unique product titles. So concise, just make sure that it's short, that you're not trying to say too much in your product title. Second, that it's front-loaded, so you're making sure that you're putting your value proposition in it and that it's front-loaded within your title. And also that it's unique. So you might want to do some research here to make sure that you don't have hundreds of other retailers using the same product title. Make sure that yours is unique for your product. So here you just want to make sure that your title stands out as much as possible, and it gives as much information as possible. And also that it contains your brand, your keywords, and any benefits associated with your product. Other things to keep in mind here is that you want your product title to be between 80 and 250 characters. And if you can, try to lean to like the lower end of that. I would lean more to 80 characters rather than 250 characters. And then other things that you can do to optimize your product title is you can capitalize the first letter of each word, but make sure not to use all caps throughout the title. If you have any measurements, so here it's a 4.5 quart mixer, make sure that you're spelling out the measurements. So if you're using ounces, inches, pounds, or quarts, that you fully spell that out. If you're using numerals, like here it's 4.5, make sure to use the numbers and not write out 4 or 5. And then if you have ampersands, make sure to write it out as the word and instead of using an ampersand, unless you need the ampersand for a brand name. And then another thing to keep in mind here is that Amazon provides title style guidelines for a variety of different product categories. So first off here, make sure that you're complying with their recommended style guidelines for your category, because different categories have different style guidelines. And the great thing about Amazon is that they publish all of these guidelines. So if this is something to look up, and it's something that we'll provide when we send out the slides for the presentation where you can find that. But as you can see here, we've put up a number of different product categories and the recommended style for each of the Amazon titles. So this is a good starting point for how to write out your Amazon product titles. In this next section, we're going to be talking about optimizing your product features. So with product features, that's just that section that shows up below the pricing section. Normally, you'll see it as bullet points. It's just a couple of quick hitters to give your buyers, your consumers, a little bit more information about the product without giving out the full product description. So a couple of things that you can do with product features is, first off, make sure you're highlighting the top features. Again, just like your titles, it's going to be the features that make your product stand out. And here we recommend using 5 bullet points. So here I would use those 5 bullet points to highlight the primary features of the product. And then just like before, just a couple of other things that you can do to optimize your product feature section. First off, begin each bullet with a capital letter. So first off, use bullets, but then secondly, if you're using bullets, to make sure to start off with a capital letter for each one. If you're using phrases within each bullet, make sure that you're separating out phrases with a semicolon. And then just like before, if you're using measurements, make sure to spell out the measurement instead of using abbreviations for it. And then in terms of product features, what not to do, what you shouldn't do within your product features. Amazon has some prohibitive information that you shouldn't use within your product feature section, and that's company-specific information. So any information about your specific company or promoting your specific company. Secondly, do not put in promotional or pricing information within the features section. Obviously, any Amazon listing has pricing shown above, so you don't need to put that within features, but it's something that Amazon prohibits. And then finally, it's shipping information. Since shipping can differ between different providers, whether they're first-party sellers or third-party sellers, Amazon prohibits using that information within the product features. So next we're going to talk about optimizing product descriptions. So within product descriptions, this is your opportunity to give the full description of your product, give all of the information. And the best way to do that is to showcase the benefits and top features of your product within the product description. So first off, you want to make sure that if your Amazon product category has requirements for products within that category, that you're fulfilling all of those requirements. So make sure that you're complying with any Amazon requirements for that. But then after that, just make sure that you're adding in your unique value proposition for your particular product, as well as highlighting any top features, but in more detail. So in the feature section above, you had 5 bullet points to describe your product and its top features. Here's your opportunity to expand upon those top features, because before you only had a bullet point, now you can give the full explanation, the full description of your product. So things to consider within your product description, just make sure you're answering the following questions. So first off, who is your product perfect for? Who would really benefit from your product? Secondly, what makes your product different from other brands and competitors? And then after that, it's just more descriptive information about your product. What colors does your product come in? What sizes are available? And then if your product has size or weight requirements, make sure to be descriptive about a full description of that. And if you're looking at descriptions, things to consider when describing your product, it's size, shape, pattern, texture, design, weight, dimensions, and specs. So as much information that you can give in text form and a descriptive format, I would definitely take the time to do that. So also here, if you want to do even further enhancements for your product descriptions, you might want to consider doing seasonal enhancements. So what this can mean is actually changing up your product descriptions for the holiday season or any other big buying seasons throughout the year. So in this case, I've shown an example from Burt's Bees, where they've added in additional seasonal gift keywords, and they've updated their imagery to reflect a holiday product, which would work as a gift for mom. So here, what they're doing is they're adding into the description gifts for her. So if you can see that there at the bottom, I know it's kind of small, under about the product it says gifts for her. And then that way, by adding that in, your product's going to show up when someone searches Christmas gifts for mom. So if that's the search, having gifts for her in the description is going to make it rise further up the Amazon rankings. And then another thing that they've done here is they have special holiday packaging for their product. So they've actually changed the imagery of their product to reflect the seasonal nature of the product being offered. So while we're on the topic of product imagery, we'll talk a little bit further about how you enhance your product imagery. So first off, you want to make sure that you're featuring high quality images and multiple product views. This is important just to have your users get a better sense of the product, and they get multiple different views and multiple different style shots of the product being used on a day-to-day basis. Next, you want images that are going to stand out and get attention. So here you want to make sure that you're just using the best photography possible of your product. And if you don't have great photography of your product, this might be a good time to go back and maybe take some different product shots of it, or bring in a professional photographer to do new product imagery. Other things to consider for your product imagery is that you want images that are 1,000 pixels or larger, either in height or width. So the longest side has to be at least 1,000 pixels wide. We also recommend that you use square images rather than rectangular images. You want to make sure that your images are consistently sized. And then you want to use the multiple images to showcase different sizes, color combinations, materials, and definitely show the quality of your product within your product shots. And then one last thing to consider here is make sure to include an in-scale image to show your product's true size. So this is putting your product against common items like hands or coins or different items that your buyers are going to recognize. And then here, just to close out before we get to takeaways, you want to make sure that you're optimizing your back-end keywords. And so this is just a way to enhance search within Amazon to add in additional back-end keywords for each of your products. So one thing to keep in mind here is that you only have 250 characters to work with. So you want to make sure that you're using the best use of your space. And secondly, you want to order your keywords in the way that your users are naturally going to search for your product. So this is a good place to maybe do a little bit of research to see how users are searching for your product on Amazon, and write out your back-end keywords in the same way that your users are going to use to search for your product. So definitely focus on that. And then if you have a product that's commonly misspelled, you want to make sure to include those common misspellings in your back-end keywords. And then just one additional thing that you can do to boost your Amazon success is use a PIM system like the one that WearAware is offering. It's called Product Fastlane. And what a PIM system can do is allow you to better manage your product data and images. So what Product Fastlane does is that you can store all of your product and data and images in Product Fastlane, and then use Product Fastlane to distribute it to all of your channels like Amazon. This also has automated feeds that run, so you can actually automate the feeds that are going to your marketplaces. So if you're selling on Amazon, you can set up an automated feed to send updated product data and images out to Amazon. And what that's going to do is it's going to update the pricing for that product and update the inventory as often as you set up the automation within Product Fastlane. And the key benefit here is that you get to spend more time making your product data better in Product Fastlane rather than just managing spreadsheets and images going out to each one of the different marketplaces. And the best thing about Product Fastlane is it allows you to house all your product data and images in one place. So it makes doing the things that we described today really easy, like updating your titles, your product descriptions, your prices, and your images. So just to close out with a couple of key takeaways from today. So first off, make sure that you're selling on Amazon because it represents 50% of the e-commerce market. Make sure that in your product titles, you're using concise and front-loaded and unique product titles. In your product descriptions, that you're showcasing the benefits and top features of your product descriptions. For your images, that you're featuring high-quality images with multiple different product views. And then if you're doing optimization for search using back-end keywords, that you're using the strategies that we described today to do that, that you're putting in keywords for how your users are naturally going to search for your product. And then if you're considering a PIM system or you want to boost what you're doing on Amazon, a PIM system like Product Fastlane is a great way to do it.
Thanks so much, Dan. That was an awesome webinar. If you came in late from the beginning, we are recording this. We'll send out the recording, the slides, and a checklist that goes over everything that we talked about today. We are also offering an Amazon Marketing Services package. So if one of these offerings listed here, if one of these four, or maybe two of the four sound like something that would fit your needs, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is up here on the screen, or you can fill out our Contact Us form on our website, or we'll be sending an email out either later today or tomorrow, and you can reply to that as well. Take a couple questions, just being mindful of everybody's time. So let's see here. So what happens if you don't own the product listing?
Yeah, if you don't own the product listing, it just becomes much more difficult to do the type of optimization that you have here. Normally, the ones that you don't own, that you're selling as a third-party seller, you just don't have as much control over the elements that I talked about today. But obviously, that's aggregated content, so usually that puts you up the search rankings. But the key thing there is just to give as much information as possible and set a competitive price, just so that you can be more likely to be the seller that Amazon chooses to use on that listing that's not owned.
Do you have tips for differentiating your Amazon product mix so customers buy like your products over others?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, Nora?
Yep. Do you have, because Amazon is so crowded and competitive, do you have any tips for differentiating so that your products stand out over your competitors?
Yeah, I mean, just that is like, it's doing the strategies that I recommended, just giving complete information, optimizing product titles, using the best imagery. In that case, a lot of it's based on pricing, so just offering the most competitive price for the same or a similar product. But yeah, a lot of it just has to do with how highly you can get ranked on Amazon. And a lot of the ranking is just based on the things that we recommended. If you're really trying to do this, I'd recommend one of those first slides that I showed, and doing all the things that we recommend that are both direct and indirect factors, because all that's going to help. But ultimately with Amazon, you just want to make sure to provide all the information and try to provide a competitive price for the product that you're offering.
Great. Does Product Fastlane PIM system integrate with marketing automation?
Yes, it does. So what you can do there is, well, it can really integrate with any system. It's just a matter of being able to load that data from there. And Product Fastlane works with APIs. It also has an FTP that you can load from. So whether you're using Magento or any other type of web platform, you can pull data into Product Fastlane. It integrates with ERPs. It integrates with back office systems. It obviously integrates with the marketplaces. So it's just a really good system in terms of being able to take data in and get data out. So we give you the tools necessary to do that within Product Fastlane.
Great. Do you think using fulfillment by Amazon would increase sales versus merchant selling?
I mean, this is a tough question just because fulfillment is just really a matter of what your company is able to do and what you're set up to do. If you can do your own fulfillment and you want to be a third-party seller, I mean, it doesn't really affect your ranking. It's just a matter of what product category you're in and whether Amazon is a first-party seller within that category. A lot of different things affect your ranking. I don't think fulfilling on your own on Amazon really negatively affects you, but it really depends on a number of factors, and largely it depends if Amazon's already selling in that category or they have other first-party sellers in that category.
Great. Looks like we're going to go with one more question here just because we're getting close to the 30-minute mark. So because everybody's always looking for the best price on Amazon, are there any tools to simplify comparing your prices to the competition?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good pricing optimizers out there. And if you want us to recommend some, like, you can get in touch with us offline and we're happy to recommend some. Obviously you can do your own research if you're not going to buy a pricing optimizer and just see what other sellers on Amazon are selling the same or similar products for. But in the absence of that, or if you want software to help you do that, it does exist. You just leverage that pricing optimization software to help you set your prices for products that you're selling within that category.
Great, thanks so much, Dan. We're going to wrap up here because we're just about at 11:30. We are sending out the recording, the slides, and a checklist out either later today or tomorrow morning, so keep an eye out for that. If we didn't get to your question or you have some follow-up questions, feel free to reach out and we'll get you connected to somebody who can get you the right answer. And again, thank you all for joining us today for another WOW webinar. Have a good one.